Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today, the topic of this video is, well, as you can see in the title of this video, and that is, what premium ship do I regret buying the most? It's a pretty difficult question to answer for a couple of reasons, but if I had to answer it, which I am today, it would be the ship that you see in the background, the Tier 8 Italian battleship, the Roma. Why the Roma? Well, that's what we're going to go over in today's video. But guys, if you find yourself enjoying this video, make sure to drop a like and leave a comment before you click off of it. It helps out in the algorithm side of things. And also, if you've missed the past couple times I've brought this up, I will be at the USS Hornet for their Carrier Con. The guys over there invited me out to their Carrier Con this year. It's their pop culture convention that they hold aboard the Hornet, the Essex-class aircraft carrier of World War II and beyond fame. It will be on March 18th of this year, and on the 19th, Wargaming is holding an event there as well. I'll be there for definitely the entirety of the first day and most of the second day as well. So if you want to get a chance to see IRL Sealord and not the Sealord that sits behind a microphone, head out to CarrierCon in Alameda. That's in the Bay Area for those of you unfamiliar with California, which I am, so it'll be a pretty interesting trip all the way around. So thank you to those guys at the Hornet for inviting me out. Seems like it's gonna be an awesome opportunity and a great event. So the Roma, the Tier 8 Italian premium battleship. So back when the Roma was first released, I'm pretty sure I was well under like 500, 600 subs at the time, way before the channel was making any type of money whatsoever. And that's one big thing about this question. I could ask, what premium do you regret buying? Well, for the past few years now, the channel has been monetized, so the funds that the channel generates goes right back into the channel. That's how I'm able to do the premium ship reviews, along with the generous donation from the channel's Patreons as well. So I haven't had to spend money from my primary job being a teacher on premium ships in quite some time, because it's part of doing a Warships channel. You review premium ships, and you gotta have them to review them. I'm not part of the CC program, so I have to buy them with the funds that the channel generates. It's amazing that the channel is pretty much self-sustaining, and I'm eternally thankful to you guys for that. That allows me to do this. But the Roma is from before that, so I have actually spent my actual own money on the Roma, and it definitely was one that I immediately regretted buying within a few games, because good God, Roma is famous for one thing. And that thing is what the Italian battleship line is now famous for: the god-awful dispersion. Now, the plus side to that with the Italian tech line is that, well, they have SAP. So you're not really using the AP that much. SAP has higher alpha and such, and it does a lot more damage to the lightly armored portions of the ships, and lightly armored ships like light cruisers get absolutely vibe checked by it. So with the Italian tech line ships, sure, you're only landing a handful of shells, but they're doing pretty decent, pretty consistent damage when you land them. The Roma doesn't have that. It has HE and AP. And the AP is what you primarily want to use, because of course it's a battleship, you want to use AP. It's got the big alpha and such, and it is absolutely screaming fast coming out of the barrels at 850 meters a second, which means that the AP shells of the Roma do actually have very good pins, and again, similar to the Italian battleship line, that tends to be how they go. Now the issue with that is when you shoot at targets that are not absolutely just chonkers, so ships that basically aren't German battleships, French battleships with their weird space armor, and pretty much anywhere that isn't the main armor belt on any battleship, you are going to overpin it, including heavy cruisers and light cruisers that you normally would pin and wreck in battleships. You will more than likely overpin in the Roma. Now, oddly enough, the terrible dispersion of the main battery guns is actually fairly historically accurate. The Italians, despite bolting a crap ton of rangefinders onto their battleships, their shell quality was quite, well, terrible. So the shells would kind of fly all over the place in real life, and, well, we can say that that has been fairly recreated well with the Roma here in game. You could also, I guess, say that the AA is kind of historically accurate, because the Roma was sunk by an aerial bomb. Granted, it was a Frix-X guided, wirelessly guided bomb, so does it really count? Maybe. The Germans dropped that on her to prevent her from being transferred over to the Allies after the Italians capitulated in the later stages of World War II. That was how she was sunk. So, yeah. Now, the Roma was just incredibly frustrating to play. Because, of course, it's like when you finally hit a target, it's an overpin. And you're doing mediocre damage at best in the Roma. However, as time went on, I actually learned how to play the thing. And do keep in mind, too, this is back when I was on, I think, like my second or third battleship line grind. So this is, fairly new Sea Lord. Again, this is back, I think within a year of my channel even starting, which I started that channel when I was like halfway up I actually started when I was at the Lion in the British battleships, which was my third battleship line. So I was still an young Sea Lord back in the day and not as experienced as I am today. And this was kind of like the final hard lesson and hey, you should really, know what you're doing before you go and throw $48 at a digital item that you don't really know how to play. Granted, there's not like there's an Italian battleship line out there to play at the time, but it's, again, why I highly encourage players to get quite a few lines up to higher tier before you go and buy a higher tier ship. Now, it wasn't quite as bad as the whole Turbot situation, which I bought before I was even through to the Montana at that point, but it was a similar situation. Now, the Roma is actually pretty good. Now, today, I actually don't regret buying the thing. I actually quite enjoy the Roma today because I know how to play the thing. And there's a couple of tips and tricks that you can use to make the Roma, perform a lot better. One of the main things that I had to learn how to do, and those of you that have played ships that have similar AP properties to the Roma probably already know this, but if you don't, there's a trick you can do where instead of aiming directly at the ship's hull that you're targeting, and you should have either seen it already or it should be coming up here pretty soon in the game that's going on in the background. If you aim just slightly below them, like right at where the water meets the ship, what your shells are probably going to do is land short of actually impacting the ship's hull, and they're going to hit the water. And they're going to slow down. And instead of overpitting the ship, they're going to slow down into the hull and enter their citadel. This works fantastically well on light cruisers and heavy cruisers with the Roma. Now, it's not a foolproof plan. It doesn't always work 100% of the time because the dispersion is still, quite terrible. So it's not a surefire thing, but it's a hell of a lot better than, landing one or two shells and doing, a little over 2,000 damage in overpins when you could get 24,000 damage with two citadels, like the example you should see somewhere in this replay, either now or shortly before this. So that helps out a hell of a lot. Another thing that the Roma has going for it that is very, very, very good is her concealment. Her concealment with a max build on it, so the module and the commander skill, you can get this thing down to 11.7 kilometers. Which is ridiculous for a Tier 8 battleship. That is still in the Crazy Conqueror pre-nerf range, when you can get the Conquerors concealment down to, I think it was like 11.3 or 11.5. So it's a quite stealthy battleship. Now, of course, in today's World of Warships, when there's submarines and CVs, everywhere, that isn't as, great of an effect as it was back in the day when we still had RTS CVs. They were fairly rare, and submarines, thankfully, weren't even thought of yet. But when you are in those situations where either the CV is going to the other side, or there's not a submarine, or there's not a submarine or a CV, you can use that to get quite close. And 11.7 kilometers is well within the danger zone of the Roma. Just do keep in mind that at those ranges, even against heavy cruisers, you are going to still need to, dunk those shells into the water right before the hull. Now, against battleships at that range, you can go ahead and just blast those guys, but again, make sure you're aiming for the chunky bits, for the main armor belts. Don't go for the extremities, because, the AP shells are going to fly right through them without detonating. So, just taking those two things into account there, the Roma becomes an quite good ship. Now, one thing that you can do to also help yourself out is pick up Sansonetti. You can still get him through his containers that are available for coal. If you have the coal to buy a unique commander, you will probably have enough coal to get Sansonetti. It costs roughly the same to buy his containers in the armory. And Sansonetti helps out in a couple of ways. Now, the first way he helps out isn't really a huge advantage in my mind because it doesn't really matter with the Roma in the first place. If you do get a kill, it will extend out the main battery gun range by another 8%. Personally, with the Roma, that you're not going to be firing at those ranges anyway. You might be firing, but you won't be hitting too much at those ranges. The second thing that helps out more, but is a little bit trickier to pop, is his rapid fire talent. So once you get Confederate, you get a 15% boost to your main battery reload time. And that, my friends, helps out a lot, because the more crap you throw down range, the better chance you have of actually hitting what you are trying to hit. Needless to say, Adrenaline Rush is a skill I would definitely take with the Roma. Despite it having great armor, it is going to eat damage, because you do have to play this ship quite close. And of course, in today's World of Warships summary, see, we can just pop up and remove 10k of your HP. But, you know, it's an AR boost. You got to look at it like that. So if you got that going for you, then it's actually quite fearsome. And I did get to pop that in this round, and well, you can see for yourself, it does help quite a bit in getting your damage numbers up even more. Now, it's been removed, but I remember back when Deadeye came out, Deadeye just was such a great thing for the Roma. And the Italian battleships in general, they were pretty much designed around Deadeye, because, you know, that's when they were released, and then they were subsequently buffed pretty much to compensate for that. But the Roma hasn't been hit with that buff just yet. I wish to God they would. A slight dispersion buff would help out with the Roma quite a bit. Needless to say, too, I would also recommend taking the aiming systems module for the Roma as well. That'll help out rein in that dispersion a little bit more. So, now, granted, what I've just said, you do have, it is a pretty hefty investment getting Sansonetti. That's going to cost you, again, about the same amount of coal that it would for any unique commander. Then you got to train them up as well. Would I recommend the Roma to you guys today? No, I really wouldn't. The only reason to buy Roma back in the day, well, not back in the day, but in recent years, before the economic rework, was her Kobayashi camo, the beer can camo, that gave you an amazing economic boost that was basically on par with Missouri if you had a really good game. But since the economic rework, you can get the camo, you can't get the boost anymore, so yeah. Now, for those of us that had the Roma before the economic rework, we thankfully have that permanent economic boost applied to our Romas. So, yeah, she's still worth taking out today if you have her and if you had that camo from before the rework. But if not, it's definitely a hard pass. But a ship that I regretted buying immediately, and that I regretted buying for quite some time until I sat down and took the time to learn the ship. Which, again, is the biggest takeaway from this: learn your ship. And of course, when it comes to throwing $50 at a premium ship, make sure you do your due diligence. Read a couple of reviews, watch a couple of reviews, make sure that it's a ship you want to throw $50 at and, well, be stuck with for quite some time until the game eventually dies. But guys, that's what I got for you guys today. Just want to answer that question. If you guys did enjoy, again, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment down below. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. We're on our way to 50,000 subs. I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.